Hello? Oh, can you hear me? Okay, great. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Choi. I'm digital marketing lead at S&P, Standard & Poor's. Brett, thank you for the entertaining presentation. You set the bar really high, so we have a lot of pressure on this panel. Before we start the panel, I have a couple of questions to ask the audience. First is, how many of you are still recovering from last night and have a bad hangover? Yeah? Many of you? Okay, good. And then second question, and this is a tough one. Can any of you guess how long it took for Brett to grow his beard?
Overnight. It was overnight.
Brett, overnight? Okay.
Good mattress.
Yeah. Right, let's start with a quick introduction. Like I said, I'm Steve Choi from S&P.
I'm Kate Creamer. I'm with MakeMusic.
Yeah, I'm Brett Swenson, and I lead email and marketing automation at Purple.
I'm Taz Upin. I work with BarkBox on the e-commerce team, and I'm the email lead and content strategist.
Good morning. Good to be with you. I'm David Zamorski. I work at BB&T Bank. We're a super regional bank in the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast, and I'm the digital marketing manager there.
Great. You know, this panel is about the value of non-promotional emails. How can news, tips, and guide be used as a good storytelling vehicle? And how can emails be used as to develop close relationship, with your customers? And I'd like to ask the audience, how many of you have a broad email content strategy at your company? And how many are satisfied with your content strategy? Okay. I'd like to ask the same question to the audience.
Yeah, Brett, you should be raising your hand.
Right here, right here.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the same question to our panel. What is your email content strategy, and how did you come up with it? Okay.
Sure, yeah. Our content strategy for smart music in particular has changed a lot over the past few years. When I started, we didn't have a content strategy at all. It was basically just shouting at teachers, you should buy our thing because it'll make your life easier, which just annoyed the shit out of them. Our content strategy now, we actually have this great content marketer or content manager and a social media manager who often go to MEA events, so Music Educators Associations. They see speakers that they really like who have interesting ideas on how to transform the classroom, and they basically work with them to publish content on the Smart Music blog. We usually publish 3 or 4 different blog posts a week. Totally not product focused, just about how can we make teachers' lives easier and how do we disseminate that content. And as a result, our reputation has grown in the industry as people who are knowledgeable and people who understand the space and the challenges. And so people come to us for that content primarily, and then when they see that our product can solve some of those problems as well, it's an easy win for us.
Yeah, as I kind of explained, our strategy is all around just entertaining people while educating them along the way, and just driving those emotional responses to connect people with our brand, and then through email we kind of carry that voice through, and really listening to decide what's next in there that we need to pass through to them, and then when it's time to close some of those deals, then we feel like we've deposited enough of that emotional deposit. So
Yeah, I actually loved Brett's presentation. Even though you're a mattress company and we're a dog company, I think we have a similar approach, which is entertaining through our product. So a lot of our content emails are either talking about some funny thing that happened because you're a dog owner, or it talks about why dogs like to tug or why dogs like to sneeze when they play. And what we've seen is that this core idea of entertaining through our product is what drives all our content strategy.
Yeah, so it's tough if you don't have a brand. I mean, that's my personal thought. So those of you who live in the Southeast, has anybody heard of BB&T? Show of hands. Okay. More than I would expect, because we haven't done a lot of brand advertising. We don't have great web content, although we're putting those fundamentals in place right now. So I always view our inbound channels as just a way to get traffic back to the site. So I've developed some programs to get ahead of that, because if you wait for other people at a large enterprise, it's going to take years. And so I've started with some programs around thought leadership to support some commercial segments at the bank and some wealth and investments areas of the bank. I've created newsletters for specific segments. And what I've done is, for putting that together, is I've worked with key partners at the bank, right? So line of business partners. I've worked with web strategists. And then, of course, our brand team and with our agency to develop that content and create those programs. So I would say, in the absence of a content strategy team, which we're creating, just be creative and innovative and know that your channel has a purpose. If you create some semblance of good content that has some value, then you could create that hook to drive traffic back to your website and ultimately increase sales.
The funny thing is, actually, for us, with our content emails, we're not trying to get them back to our website. We try to serve up the content in the email platform itself so that they don't have to actually click out of there to go read the rest of it. The whole thing is in there. And then we try to do it by, in some form or way, connecting it back to our product, but not force-fitting it, because content for the sake of content, they can find anywhere else. We're trying to do it with a spin. We're trying to tie it back to how we build our toys and why we feature the treats we do, and yeah.
That's a great point. I'm also envious of both of your brands because you do have, I think, the flexibility to inject humor into your brand. I've tried to convince executive management and senior leadership about doing that, but it's a hard sell at the bank.
To that point, if you guys haven't seen Bark's 420 email, please go find it. It's really funny. And I kind of agree, David. I mean, we've tried humor, and sometimes it works, but music educators we've found, and music composers and arrangers on the finale side of things, can be a very dry audience. They just want the solution as fast as they can possibly get it. So we have to be really careful about when we're trying to be funny, and making sure that they don't perceive that as, oh, you're just wasting my time right now.
And for SMP, we would love to incorporate humor in our campaigns, but we're very stodgy, old school conservative organization. So, I guess biggest challenge for us, one challenge is compliance. We want to try something different, and compliance will say, nope, you cannot do that. That's not in compliance. So that can be a little frustrating. Okay. The second question I have is, what are some major challenges you faced with non-promotional emails, and how did you solve them?
Yeah, I mean, I think, for a lot of us, it's just convincing, upper management that not everything needs to sell, right? In email, it's kind of looked upon, hey, we need, sales are down or things are low right now. Can you send an email out to, XYZ and get a bump? And they need to understand that there's a bigger picture. And, we're playing the long game. That, with a mattress purchase, we found that it takes around 28 to 30 touch points before someone comes back and buys from us. So, one email really isn't going to do it for us. We need to hit them on different channels and in different ways to help them, consume, a lot of the content that we have. So.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I think finding ways to track people as they go through email, and if they come to their site and they start getting your emails, tracking that is hard enough as it is, but then you also have to take into account social and retargeting and things like that. And I think that's a challenge a lot of us deal with, is that we're so often stuck in this email silo, and we want to track everything in email, and that's hard to begin with. So how do we start tracking across channels and figure out what's the actual value, what touch points are really important for people? So I think non-promotional becomes even more challenging there, because you're not seeing revenue necessarily tied directly to that email, even though it's making an impact on the customer relationship.
For us, actually, it's not been so much of a challenge because we're a content-first company. Our founders believe in really funny, engaging content to keep people in our universe, and being a dog person, that's something that everyone looks forward to. I mean, I'm in so many dog groups on Facebook. I just look at dogs all day. But I think the challenge for us has been, we have a slightly older audience, and a lot of times we want to do some really edgy content, and we get the brakes on it. Even though it has something to do with our product, it's just that we need to, toe that fine line. If we push it too much, then we might alienate our audience, and we don't want to do that. So that's been our biggest challenge, is not doing super crazy things.
Yeah, so working at a bank, it's a sales-driven organization, so it's a really tough. Keep the mic a little closer. Okay. Thank you. All right. I thought it was an intimate setting, and everybody can hear me, but I'll hold it a little closer. Is that better? Check. Yeah. So so selling or you know, talking about how non-promotional emails can be effective is can be difficult. It doesn't drive, you know, top line income. Every line of business is up against very aggressive production goals, and everybody looks at email as a great, you know, sales vehicle, if you will. So what I've looked at as a metric to help, you know, drive that discussion and convince others that, hey, non-promotional emails can be very effective. It can be a part of your brand storytelling. It can create value and engagement to customers. If we think about financial literacy, right? All of us have some financial relationship with a bank. There's a lot of confusion about financial services and products depending on where you might be in your life stage. So if we can develop some content to speak with our customers about that, then we might be successful. If we look at retention, you know, as a KPI and loyalty, I think over the long term, we'll see some really good results. So I've looked at attrition. Attrition is a really important KPI to bank because we're always going to get deposit accounts. We're always going to cross-sell. People are always going to get frustrated with us and move to some other institution. We're getting beat up by fintech companies, right? We're getting beat up by community banks. And so if you look at attrition and you use email as a vehicle to drive that down, then non-promotional emails can be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I really liked what Bart Thornburg talked about with two-way conversation and focusing on one CTA and talking to your customer, not just talking to them, but actually listening to them. So one of the things we do with our content emails is put a name to the email so that they actually know who wrote it, and then they're able to, and we have a CTA that asks them to share videos and photos of their dogs, and then we respond back, and it's not just our customer service team that responds back, it's people in on the business that are working as merchandisers or content writers that respond back and say, this is great, like share more photos, let's keep this conversation going. I think it's so important to listen rather than just keep like blast messaging. And over time we've seen that our content emails and our marketing emails perform pretty much the same way, if not better. And so that's actually been great for us because we get more support to do more non-promotional email.
Absolutely. We just launched a program that it looks like nearly plain text emails from our VP of Education. And all of those emails come from Greg at SmartMusic. And he does actually, he reads the responses to those emails, but the emails that we're sending out, we're just sending out to people who we consider critical health teachers. So people who aren't using the product as well as we'd like them to, or people who we know are likely to churn. So we're sending these emails out that look like just, you know, Greg took a hot minute to just type up an email and said, hey, I saw you're not doing this the way that maybe you should be. Like, here are some resources that I think might help. Please give me a call if you have any questions. And we've seen huge response to that, much to our CS team's dismay, because people are like responding to the emails. So that's a challenge there. But it's really exciting because I'm actually getting the insight from people saying, oh yeah, I'm really interested and I want to be involved with this, but I just haven't had the time, or I don't really know how this works. And so it's been cool for us because we're actually like not just listening to the data, we're listening to our customers and seeing, okay, well, these are common pain points that people are experiencing, and now we've got an actual human conversation that's going back and forth that's lending itself to our business decisions moving forward.
Yeah, and I just want to add, you know, one thing that we've done is, you know, with the amount of traffic we have going to our site, we get a lot of abandoned carts, and we actually implemented a plain text email that just went out from someone in our CX team that basically said, hey, is there anything I could have done, we can do to help you understand, or do you have any questions? And I had to turn it off because so many responses were coming back in that were driving phone calls to our team that they said, hey, you know, we're not ready for this, so can you turn it off? But that was it was an email to help people, but it actually led to, you know, they were closing you know, abandoned carts over the phone, you know, until they couldn't keep up. So there's other ways to, you know, to drive sales without, you know, asking for it. Just trying to help people. So.
Like for S&P, like I said, it's about in compliance, right? We're a very highly regulated industry. So it's all about educating, you know, the compliance and communicating, you know, step by step, and just take baby steps. So. Absolutely. Next question is, you know, it's relatively easy to measure the performance of promotional email, right? You have specific KPIs, and you can measure the results against your goals. but it's more difficult for non-promotional email. So how do you measure the impact and value and ROI of non-promotional emails?
So one of the things, when we started doing content emails, we didn't really think about it from a KPI perspective. We just wanted to engage with our customers, give them some interesting content, and we dig deep when we're looking for this content too. We're trying to talk to dog behavioralists and ask them questions, and just be curious about your dog. So everything that your curiosity is driving is what we're writing about. And we didn't have KPIs until we started seeing that content and marketing were starting to perform pretty much the same or better. And now we're putting KPIs in place for content. That way, it's crazy that we have revenue as a KPI now for content, because it's purely content. We barely put anything in there that's promotional, but they've done really well.
Yeah, so for me, you know, everything goes back to sales, but I track all of my emails, right? So even some of my engagement programs, when we're talking about product benefits or features, drive adoption to online banking sign up, right? Or a mobile download. So that's a metric I've used to say, hey, you know, this particular communication was meant to create engagement, right? And I look at those metrics like opens, clicks, you know, engaged subscribers in our database. But hey, look what it drove in sales too. So, you know, the sales are just gravy, but it helps people understand that even non-promotional emails can deliver on sales as well as a better client experience.
Absolutely, yeah. We run a free trial nurturing program for Finale. Finale is our notation software. It's super robust, and our free trial is 30 days long, so it's really important for us to get people in and get people using the software right away, because we know if they have an understanding of it after 30 days, more often than not, they'll purchase. So what we're actually doing to track that program, almost the entirety of that program is content. We almost, until the very last email, I think we've sent them 12 emails at this point, which is a ton, and we normally don't do that many. But the very last email is the one saying, hey, we thought you might be interested in purchasing because we don't want you to lose your work. But every email leading up to that is just like, here's a quick tip on how you might want to do this, or here's how the composers of La La Land are using this particular feature, and we think you might be really invested in this as well. And so what we do is we actually measure the performance of the entire program as it relates to the business goal, and I'm tracking each of those campaigns that lends to the program individually. And so what that enables me to do is I can just iteratively test each of the subject lines, CTAs, things like that in the individual emails, and basically lift the weak links to lend themselves to the whole program. And we generally see that those content emails just kick ass.
Yeah, and I think for us, we're, on my side, measuring things traditionally, how are people moving through quote unquote, your funnel? Are you qualifying people for some, your sales qualified leads, things that we were all familiar with in our CRM? When I first started, it was just building content and getting emails built, and now we're taking a step back and really looking at, how are people moving from one stage to another, or from one piece of content to another, and really analyzing, stuff like our science content. Is that stuff leading to sales down the line, and if so, then we can push people, and nudge them down that direction if that's what's really helping people understand what purple is. And so I think there's ways to measure things traditionally around content. If you think about things down the line, obviously, and then looking retroactively at how those things performed, that's helped us right now. So.
Brett, I'm actually curious to know, this is not tied necessarily to a KPI question, but do you guys segment with your characters? Like, do you assign characters to people?
In terms of like our video characters?
Yeah.
No, we actually don't. We have some, internal personas that we've created for people, but no, I think that could be an interesting thing to do. I think the thing that our brand has been kind of characterized as schizophrenic a little bit. We have so many characters, and people are consuming so many different pieces of content that I think that'd be an interesting way to try and, to segment people. But
just don't tell them that you're doing that. It could be offensive.
You're
I have a follow-up question to that. So, I like the profiling that you do on your website. Do you use that data to segment lists and communications. So the way you might speak to someone who stays up late drinking like we did last night, and how it affects their sleep.
Yeah, I'd like to say we're further along, but we just barely implemented that a few months ago, and so we're kind of in the data collection phase and pushing some traffic to that. We really want to make sure that it's actually useful content that we're delivering and it's helpful, and so our content team took a lot of time to write the reports that get delivered, just to be helpful so you can improve your sleep, whether you have a purple mattress or not. We want people to have good sleep. But yeah, our goal is to be able to segment off each one of those data points I have in the CRM that I can say, hey, yeah, this person, we have some questions about, do you sleep with pets, or who's occupying your bed, so we can understand, kind of what the landscape of their family dynamic is, so that we can speak to that and it resonates with people. So that's our goal as we grow this, is to do that a little bit better.
And where does this happen? The top of the funnel, or mid funnel, or the bottom of the funnel?
For us, it's mostly the top of the funnel, but I think it's these guys can probably speak to it in different stages, but I think it's important to have it all the way through, and but for us it made sense to start up top so we can really understand who people are, and we're not flooding them with content that's irrelevant to them. So.
Right, and one of the things we do too is that if we see that people aren't responding to our marketing emails, we start only sending them content, because again, we don't want to oversell. More than anything, we just want to help you better your relationship with your dog and understand your dog better. And that way we're still keeping them in our universe, and they can engage with the content if they want to, but they're still opening and reading through it. And we do some tests where we throw in links at the bottom of a content email to see if people are actually reading all the way through and clicking, and I mean, the results have been great so far. We're going to continue testing through this quarter and then implement a more robust content strategy.
And Taz, that call to action at the bottom of an email that's high value, not promotional or tied to an offer, is that driving sales?
Yeah, it's a good example of that is for the Olympics. We do a lot of themed content and marketing sense. And for the Olympics, we did an email where we just literally videoed our dogs doing tricks, turned them into GIFs, and then put them in an email. And at the end of it, we did a silly thing that was like sponsored by Barkshop Treats. And we drove sales that were comparable to that week's marketing send. And it was really high. Everyone was super surprised. That was the first time we did it. We were not expecting that. And treats for us are not our top sellers, because treats, we source them in the US, but we don't make them ourselves, whereas our toys are designed by us. And so the fact that a content email drove to treat sales was a big win. And so we've tried to do more of that stuff. Like our 420 email drove to treats too.
Cool, 420.
Munchies.
What's the illusion there?
Like your dog has a munchies, you need to feed that, right?
Right, got it at 420.
It's really good.
It's universal.
Super good email.
So for us, non-promotional is very top of the funnel, right? But what we try to do is integrate it across a campaign, right, with other channels, and just get traffic to the site. But it all flows into, ultimately, revenue and sales.
Absolutely. Yeah, we started sending a couple years ago when we were first building out our content strategy. It felt insane. We came up with a plan to do one newsletter a month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you were traditionally posting like one piece of content a month, to have a newsletter was a little overwhelming. And it was really cool because we saw a huge response to it almost immediately. But better than that, Smart Music is for band, for orchestra, for jazz, for choral teachers. So we have all of these different segmentations kind of built in, but we don't have that information in our back end. So what the newsletters allowed us to do is, once we started building out our content and once we started having a variety of different pieces, we were actually tracking the behavior in email based on, are you clicking mostly choral and some band? Is the, like, how is your job structured? What are your needs? What are you interested in? And so by just tracking that in the ESP, we were able to segment further beyond that. So now we're sending featured content pieces, or hey, this webinar might be relevant for you. And then when it comes down to the time where we think that someone might be ready to buy, we can send them a piece that says, hey, Smart Music lends itself really well to choral teachers for X reason, and we know that it's going to be relevant to you.
And SMP is a bit different from other people on this panel. We are mostly a B2B shop, or other people here are B2C. So we don't do too many non-promotional email. Most of our emails are like newsletter. And we publish thousands of articles about the economy, about different sectors. So it's about educating people. I'm sure many of you heard about the U.S. tax reform or the U.S.-China tariff. So we want to educate a lot of businesses. What's the potential impact from all these changes. Brett's presentation leverage humor, right, to evoke emotional response. How other people in the panel using emotional response to target your audience.
Well, I can be quick. So, I'm in the financial services industry too, and compliance sucks. So, we really don't.
I honestly
fear, maybe you drive fear.
I honestly think, because I was talking to you earlier, and for me, as I guess, I've never been educated in finance and financial services. That wasn't priority. So, and I've heard about that from a lot of my friends. We don't know basic things like how to invest in stocks and what, if you're in a startup and you get options like when do you vest and those kinds of things. And I feel really let down by everyone in my life. But I think that's where fintech and banks specifically have the opportunity to educate in a casual way without using very big financial terms. And I would love to see something like that. I would absolutely subscribe to it. I'd feel like someone's actually talking to me rather than talking over me. But yeah, there's so much potential.
That's a good point. And in all seriousness, we do try to differentiate ourselves in theory by not using bank speak, right? Not talking to customers, clients, we refer to them as, or prospects using bank jargon, because we all know how ineffective jargon can be. We have our own set of jargon in marketing, and how many of you out there play buzzword bingo at a conference like this? We just use it, and it loses its effect, especially to a segment or audience that doesn't get it. So in our messaging and in our creative, we often strive for using plain language, and where we can be, just a little more off the cuff. So we're differentiating ourselves from other competitors, but we're also just trying to connect with the consumer.
Yeah, I actually got an email yesterday from my bank that said "Dear customer name" or "Dear consumer," and I said, "You have so much information on me. You couldn't even put my name in there." Or and I have a car loan with them, and I think you can. There's ways to do a better job of just connecting with people that you handle their financial information and their their livelihood and things like that. That's very sensitive. But one of the ways that we've thought about things is going beyond humor and really talking about empowering people to kind of seize the day, quote unquote. Sleep shouldn't be the only thing you think about. It should be playing with your kids and being able to be a better husband and father in my case, or a mother and a friend, or whatever that may be in your life that you want to achieve. We want to go into that space a little bit and talk to people and really be a tool in their life that can help them accomplish something that they've always wanted to. And we feel like sleep is maybe the #1 priority to get you there. So we have some campaigns coming out that really will try and tap into that a little bit. And I think we're excited to see how those perform as well.
Yeah, in our content, we try to incorporate activities in there so that you are actually doing those with your dog. I think unlike me or Adrian, who gets to take their dog to work, a lot of people end up having to leave their dogs at home, and you're not really spending that much time with them. So we try to do put activities in there for them to do. That way you're trying to actually bond with your dog. You put down your phone, you put down your technology. And the idea is that through our humor and through our educational aspects, that you will, actually think about your dog as not just a pet, but something more, because scientists have proven that they have the intelligence of a 2-year-old toddler, and that you can teach them so much, and they're eager to learn. So yeah, the idea is let's make that bond super strong.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, Brett, you touched on this a little bit, where really powerful content messaging basically shows people how to be the kind of person they want to be. This product or this content or this message will help you get to this aspirational point in your life. And Taz, to your point, I mean, I can bring my dogs into work, but they're batshit crazy, so sometimes I don't. And I feel bad when I get home. And so when I get home, I'm like, okay, well, I could sit on the couch and I could watch TV for 30 minutes. Or if I have someone teaching me, this is the next trick that you could teach Cooper. Or maybe like take Pip for a run and work on X number of things. I think it's really important to give people the tools that they want to learn how to be better people. And that's kind of what we do with Smart Music. We're embracing this notion of teach the music, not the notes. And we've seen this one testimonial do really, really well because Smart Music is generally pretty well known in the music education community. But a lot of teachers are concerned that it's going to take their job from them because it's quantifying the power of music education. It's giving students tools to practice on their own at home, which is kind of unheard of before that. And so we have this one testimonial from a customer named Leslie who basically said she was like, she came to a new school, they had Smart Music, they were using it, and she went to her director, she was the assistant director, and she was like, I don't know what I should be doing anymore because the students are coming to class prepared. They know their parts. And so at that point, we get teachers to the point where they're finally like, I can teach students music and how to make actual music about this and how to get excited about this. And that's a position that they historically haven't been in before.
Steve,
I think,
say
yeah,
something?
I want to open it up to questions from the audience. We have one in back. We'll get the mic to you.
Hey, good morning, guys. Great panel. Quick question for all of you. It was initially, awkward, sorry. Katie Fitzpatrick, Liberty Mutual. This question was initially for Brett, but I think all of you have kind of hit on it a little bit. So really, whoever wants to take it, but we've seen in the industry trending quite a bit lately the use of video and emails and then clickable content, something that's a bit more interactive. And I'm wondering if any of you have ever tried that and how it's worked for your companies.
Yeah, I've been experimenting with some interactive emails and some different tabbed emails, or the other one we had was, it's kind of a hotspot email that you can click on things and it illuminates and pulls up. And I think I was testing those, and we've seen really good, as some of us have mentioned up here, keeping people in the inbox. What you guys are doing at BarkBox to kind of keep people in the inbox, it does a really good job of helping them consume the content within the inbox and stay in there and get everything out of it that you were hoping to. For us, it's finding that balance of, we still want to drive people back to site. It's still, a big part of my job. And so I'm trying to understand, the balance there and, how the best way to do that. So I'm still experimenting with some of those things.
For us, we actually, with our content emails, once they consume it, we still want them to go to our site in some form, but we don't have content on there yet. That's one of the things we want to get started on, but the fact that they're still clicking out after they read it is pretty great. But one of the things we've done with our content is we've gone the other way. We're super simple. A lot of our content emails look like we shot them in our office with our phones. We try to do what magazines used to do back in the day with the crossword puzzles and match things and have these little games in there for the humans as well, and then have answers flipped at the bottom, and those work really well. I mean, they're good because people are consuming our emails mostly as a brain break from their job, and we have cute dogs, and so it helps them get better.
We do not, but it's on the roadmap.
We do a lot of video content and onboarding specifically because our software is so robust. We find that it's just easier to show people rather than try to tell them how to do the things they want to do.
Yeah, for us, we're testing some video, but we're all about content, right? I mean, our audience wants to know what's the latest, the greatest in the stock market, economy. So in many cases, text email perform just as well or even better than HTML. So it looks like our target audience don't really care about the fuzz and or the good or the buzz. They care about, hey, I want to get relevant, interesting content.
Ryan Finland from Adestra. How do you, each of you had interesting stories about how you tell your brand story. How do you manage authenticity when you're having these discussions from a creative standpoint? I mean, how do you keep yourselves in the bounds of your brand from an authenticity standpoint?
I think for us, again, because UGC is a big part of our, I wouldn't say marketing, but UGC is a huge part of our content strategy. And so we try to focus on the idea of that we're real people. It's not just some software automating everything and sending it out to you, that we're doing these things for your entertainment or for your education, that we're going out there looking for all this content and scientific data. So like I said, we shoot everything on our phones, in our office, and it gives that quality of that we're literally doing this right now so that we can build it out for you, and there's that sense of authenticity through it. There's not too much of a studio shot, it's not like highly stylized, and if you look at it, the way we formatted our content emails, it's very basic HTML, so it looks really old school. And it helps in a way because our audience is also older, and they enjoy that kind of format a lot, and that's how we do it.
So we look at how our clients are engaging with us just by response rates as a kind of a leading indicator. Of course, in the development process, there's a lot of collaboration with our brand team and our agency. We have guidelines, and of course we remain within those guidelines in development and across every channel. We also invest a lot in third-party research, right? So that's our own client research. We look at Net Promoter Score. We look at competitive research. We look at competitive advertising communications, and we just try to triangulate all that to, when we're going to market, be as genuine and as authentic to a brand as we can.
I think it's exceptionally easy for us because we all use our own products, and a lot of the Smart Music team especially came from music education, and they came to Smart Music because they recognized it as a solution for the problems that they had. So it's really, it's fun for us because as the products develop and the softwares change, we do in-house demos, kind of like road shows between the teams, and whenever questions come up like, oh hey, like, could we use this in this particular scenario, or could this solve this problem, or how do you do this? Whenever enough team members are having the same problem or the same interests, it's generally a pretty safe assumption for us that our customers are probably going to like that stuff too. And so we just kind of talk to them as our peers, and that's worked really well for us in the past.
Yeah, we also, to understand if actually our audience is liking it, we used to have thumbs up, thumbs down buttons at the bottom of the email just to let us know, hey, you like this email, reach out to us in some format. And we have surveys that go out at the end of every month that collects data about their purchases, how they liked our content and our marketing, did it resonate with them? And so we get a lot of feedback from that where we're actually taking it, incorporating it, changing up our marketing emails to kind of match what we're doing with content. Not completely, but yeah.
I love that thumbs up, thumbs down idea.
Hi, good morning. Stefan from Frazee. Our marketing department see our non-promotional lists and our marketing list as two entirely separate groups of people. And if ever I try and force our marketing team to send something sales related to the non-promotional email, she makes me have a timeout so I can think about what I've done. Do you see your list as entirely separate people, or is this a different communication style to the same group of people?
So in our business, we actually have an overlap between marketing and content, but our content list is pure. The only reason why we do that way, I mean, we do put in links there for barkshop.com, but we keep it pure because they came in signing up for content. We're not going to move them over to start getting marketing unless when we do maybe every couple of quarters, we do like a re-opt-in to marketing emails, and they're happy to join if they want to, but we ask them for permission before we do that.
Hi, Jason Simon with Epsilon. I'm curious, when you develop these relationships with consumers and you have humor, it may not apply to everybody, but I use a brand, not one of yours, that had a very edgy campaign to pull people in. And now I actually find the continuation of that as a long-term customer to be annoying, and I see through it, and obviously they're just trying to continue to sell me more product, but with the same tone. Have you thought about how over time, as the relationship matures with your consumer, you may have to change a little bit of the tone of the content?
Yeah, for us, I think that's a big thing that we think about all the time is, once we've kind of, hooked you, I guess, or got your attention, and we want to also infuse some seriousness into the situation so that you understand that we, again, the founder of our company is a rocket scientist. You know, he's kind of dry. He lets us go where we want to go with the content, but we want to explain to people that, you know, we take sleep and comfort seriously. And so, yeah, when we get past some of those initial, you know, eye-catching content, we want to, you know, we want you to trust us with something that's really important, right? Your sleep. And so I think there's finding that balance of, yeah, when to infuse, you know, being silly or humorous with also, you know, a campaign or a tone that's around, you know, just being a better person and sleeping better. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. And we're trying to do an even better job that, yeah, we're not annoying after the fact, because I have that same fear sometimes too.
Yeah, and I think to what Brett said, we kind of do the same thing. There are certain products that we have on our site that we don't want to take that humor tone because it's very serious. Like, for example, we started doing CBD treats, which is about, like, it's cannabinoid treats that actually help with dogs' anxiety, older dogs' arthritis, and it helps them feel better and younger. And for those kinds of things, like, we have two approaches. We do, for our product in general, we do a humor aspect, and then we do a heartwarming part of it, because these stories are really powerful. Like, people are telling us that they use this product, their dog is suddenly a puppy again, and there's no humor there. It's all about, like, just wanting your dog to live longer and healthier. So when it comes to stuff like that, wellness specifically, we take it very, very seriously.
I'm actually curious to know, are you annoyed by it because you find it inauthentic or because you don't want funny emails?
I don't find it authentic.
Okay, thank you.
With that, we have to wrap. Steve and panel, this was a great discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.